2022. I would like to take roll call for the minutes to permit the commission members. Jerome Bias,
Present.
Matthew Haley,
Present.
Zipporah Clark Baldwin,
Present.
Karen Chin,
Present.
Bonnie Whitaker, not here, Jeanette Baudry,
Here.
and I'm Carrie Worthy, and I'm here. Let the record show that we have 6 commission members in attendance, which provides a quorum for our meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll take a moment of silence, please. The Historic Resource Commission is charged with promoting, enhancing, and preserving the character of the historic district as well as landmarks, including the Courthouse Square Historic District. We will now consider the minutes from February 1, 2022, meeting of the HRC. The minutes include findings of fact and conclusions of law. Commissioners, I refer you to page 2 to review the minutes as submitted. Are there any corrections?
I found none.
Okay. Since there's no corrections, may I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
Make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? It passes. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, just to help me out tonight, that Debbie Jolly couldn't be in attendance.
Uh-huh.
Who made the motion to approve?
I did.
Jerome.
Jerome Bias did.
Jeanette seconded.
Thank you, guys.
We will now move to new business. Our first item is the hearing of any certificate of appropriateness of applications. We will now begin the evidential hearing for the COA listed on the agenda as a quasi judicial proceeding. The HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth in the guidelines and standards of the specific historic district for that application. The HRC must make its decisions upon competent material of substantial evidence to determine the facts of hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the application. The commissioners in voting for an item shall not have a fixed opinion, not susceptible to change, have a conflict of interest, have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. This meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to parties and standings to participate who wish to provide comment, testimony regarding the proposal. And there's no one here, so
Possible to do the staff report first.
as I was reading this, I was thinking maybe we should skip and go wait for them and come back to this. Is that all right with staff if we do that? Is that all right with
Is it the
everyone
pleasure
else?
of the commission?
Anyone have opposed to that? As I was reading this, I was thinking the same
Good use
thing.
of time.
Since we only have one. Skip over. Okay, signage.
Page 8, Chairman.
Okay, sorry, I skipped
fine.
way over it. All right. So we are going to go to new business, a recommendation to amend the minor works to add signage approval. Mary, will you read the staff report for that?
Yes, and it is on page 9 in your packet if you guys would like to follow along with me. The proposal before you this evening is presented by me for the planning director. His interpretation of the existing minor works text is that it only allows staff the authority to approve either 1, window signs of a certain type, or 2, replacement of existing signs in the same spot as previous. However, we have researched and found that previous planning staff were approving other signs as minor works, which does not seem to be authorized currently under the design standards. Other signs, in the planning director's opinion, should have been subject to the COA process through the HRC. Moving forward, however, the director is requesting that the HRC adopt the following additions to the minor works to allow staff to approve certain items within objective criteria. We know that signage is certainly one of those items that is consistently evolving, yet having clearly defined standards is completely within the charge of the commission to delegate to staff for administrative review. See section 10.201B7 of the guidelines. In fact, most, if not all, of other local jurisdictions in the state allow significantly more minor work approvals than Graham, and staff would like to see a more in-depth review of the guidelines at some point to develop minor works aside from signage that could be approved. Staff would ask the commission to adopt these added minor works, knowing that if staff did not feel that these items met the standards within, then they would be referred to the HRC for full review of congruity with the special characteristics of the district. We're not asking that the commission cede full control over signage review, but rather that the commission simply give staff a bit more flexibility to be more customer service friendly. The state and local statutes are as follows, and the additional minor work staff is seeking approval for administration approval follow on subsequent pages. So the 160D-947 gives information about the historic district and that authority. And then section 10.201 in the Historic Resource Commission guidelines gives details as what you see on the screen in terms of appropriate and inappropriate. So again, the proposal is that staff is requesting approval that signage move to a minor work. In your packet, I'll direct you to page 14 and 15. This lists out the normal maintenance where no COAs are required. It lists out the minor works where COAs are required, but it's approved at staff level. And it also identifies the major work. So you can see what is highlighted bridges to signs. So underneath the minor work highlighted is that window signage where I had asked you guys at our last meeting that I had found it where it had been previously approved, but for you guys to adopt it and to move it as a minor work, you agreed. And so that has been placed there. And then if you go to the last bullet point, alteration of permanent signage located in Article 10 of the City of Graham Development Ordinance, that then takes you to the development ordinance that tells you that signage have guidelines and criteria, but there's no authority directing staff for wall signs or awning signs to be approved. All of that currently is at the commission's level. However, the practice previous to Justin being hired and previous to me being appointed the liaison to HRC, the practice of staff was that they were approving wall signage. If I may approach, is that okay?
Yes.
I wanted to give you guys another piece of guidelines for the B1. So you can see that it's very specific in size for minimums and maximums.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So for the record, what I have handed everyone is section 10.40 from, or 400 from the development ordinance, page 176, where it shows in the B1, freestanding signs, projecting signs, wall signs, sidewall signs, marquee or awnings, and outdoor advertising with the parameters or guidelines that staff could follow if it is adopted by the commission tonight to give the signage authority to staff as a minor work. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I think in the past, we did have a conversation. I think that's why the staff were approving signage. But I don't remember the ins and outs of all that. Sorry.
No problem. The only authority designated in minutes was for windows.
Maybe that's what I remember.
So we're agreeing to hand over signage for control of all signage to the planning board as opposed, so none of it would come to us again,
Not planning board, to staff.
to the staff, to planning. board.
So for example, whenever we move to the, let me not use the example of the hearing. There has been a practice where signs, because there's also a sign permitting application that goes to planning, and that permitting process hinges on the COA. So previously, that was one and the same of staff, where I'm not, I'm in the planning department, I'm downtown development, and so they have to sign permit and approve the COA as a minor work. So the authority has not been identified, listed in the guidelines, nor is outlined in the development ordinance. So Justin has advised me not to continue that practice until I have the authority from you guys. So the direction is under your purview. The request is that it becomes a minor work. One, to make it an ease of the business owner. Signage is a natural piece of opening a business. Two, so that they can move at a more streamlined process, and that it just becomes a customer-friendly, more efficient process. I can't think of a situation where there was signage vetted in the past was with lights, and that came before the commission.
Right.
Aware of that.
Yeah.
So if there was some detail outside of what you guys have in front of you that you wanted to present as conditions that would come back to you, you're absolutely at that liberty to do so.
Right. I think that in the past, it was the light, like if they wanted a backlit or the light was inside the sign,
Mhm.
which was not within the regulations, then that came before us.
Mhm. And talking with some of the current business owners, they're always trying to think, how can I reinvent myself, or how can I gain more marketing visibility? So a refresh is something that comes up top of mind. Can I do, if my sign is faded, can I purchase a new one? It kind of irritates them. And I know that that's a emotion, right? But it just seems like one extra step that they would then have to come before the commission to get approval when they are already an existing business and they have signs in place.
So from what I'm understanding then, if there is no changes to the sign and it's just a replica or the same type, then it would be considered minor. And then we had an amendment on 5/14/19. So it would still go within the
The windows.
compliance of the window and the signage.
You are correct, and I'm going to take that step further. There is a trend where businesses are moving to individual lettering. So if a pardon?
What does that mean?
So Volt Salon has VOLT versus a wall sign.
Each letter is cut out individually.
Like
Mhm.
the Edward Jones and.
Correct. Correct. So it wouldn't necessarily just be a flat wall sign that would be a staff approval. It would be signage, as long as, I think Justin's wordage in here was wooden or similar materials. So, plastic, depending on the quality, that's really where you guys get into the guidelines are what are the materials, what are the colors, what are the size?
And so that would no longer be minor, that would be major and it'd
It
be
would
passed
no
to the
longer be
board.
major, it would be minor.
Minor, so that's what we would be giving you permission to do and update, and I think that's
Correct.
reasonable, fair reason.
Mary, I've got a quick question.
Yes,
Just the signs that have been approved under this process by the staff, have they all been within these guidelines? Is that what you're saying? There's no signs that have been approved that are any of these pictures up here that say inappropriate?
to my knowledge, that is correct.
Okay.
And then also, Mary, if there had been I'd say a bad storm or some kind of freak accident, then that means the business owner would have the ability to get their signage back up a little bit quicker without the additional layer of bureaucratic
You're correct.
review.
Correct.
Okay.
So it gets into the details on page 10 and 11. I'll read that to you guys. Installation of new commercial projecting signage made of painted or stained wood or other compatible painted or printed non-wood materials that also complies with the requirements of the development ordinance regarding maximum size, height, lighting, and location. Signs must be installed in traditional locations in such a way as not to damage or conceal architectural features or details on a historic building or property. All projecting signs must be hung either parallel or perpendicular to the building face. Roman numeral 2, installation of new campus suite, tenant, or wayfinding signage that applies with the requirements of the development ordinance and is made only from painted or stained wood or from compatible non-wood materials. Signs must be installed in traditional locations in such a way as not to damage or conceal architectural features or details on historic buildings or property. All hanging or projecting signs of this type must be hung either parallel or perpendicular to the building face. And then the third type, or Roman numeral 3, installation of new wall signage mounted flush against a building facade and installed in traditional locations in such a way as not to damage or conceal architectural features or details on historic structures that are made of painted, stained, torch, or sandblasted solid wood or using other compatible materials. Signage shall comply with the requirements of the development ordinance regarding maximum size, height, lighting, and location. And in the Roman numeral 4, installation of new freestanding signage meeting the maximum size, height, lighting, location requirements of development ordinance. Signs shall be made of compatible materials. So you see, it's new commercial projecting signage, new campus suite, tenant, or wayfinding signage, new wall signage, or new freestanding signage. So signage as a whole with that criteria, with the image up on the screen, appropriate, inappropriate, with the development ordinance guidelines, these are all the resources that staff would use to approve signage as a minor COA.
And they can make the request directly to your office.
Yes, because I receive the COAs and then based on what is on the application, it is determined either if it's a minor or a major.
So
I got one more question. So Mary, just with that responsibility and knowing that the evolution of signage and how it's going, is that something that can be brought back up to us just to talk about style and what that looks like from downtown to make sure we are preserving, the historic makeup of downtown while allowing innovation of technology? And does that am I making sense there?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if I heard you correctly, it's like is there still an opportunity for this board to have knowledge of the signage? And then if it is a new, maybe it's a 3D printed sign.
Right.
You know, something that we haven't necessarily discussed this evening. You know, it could always be that if there's a new innovative, non-traditional signage, that there's a reference with the chair. And that the chair could communicate with staff and the planning director. Absolutely.
All right, I'd feel more comfortable about relinquishing it, that if we had that kind of, just kind of check and balance back and with that. So,
So I left it open. I did not give an example of a motion because I kind of felt like you guys would creatively come up with more language than what I would provide you. So I wanted you guys to be thinking, if you want to jot some notes, just to make sure that whenever you do make the motion, it encapsulates what was put forth before you by Justin. And then if you have any additional caveats to add.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Who, when signage has come before us, who is the person who enforces?
It's a good question. So
And are they going to continue to do that because it's not coming before us?
that's a great question, just for education and understanding of the board and anyone who's watching the meeting. We do not have dedicated staff who go out and enforce or look for non-compliance. You guys have that opportunity as you're in the downtown area to ask about compliance. And then if you take it a step further and you feel like there's non-compliance, then you would file a complaint. So it is a complaint-driven enforcement follow-up.
Because I mean, signage was a major big deal for several months here. And the main thing was the lighted sign on the Gleaner building. Anyway, wanting that. So I did not know the staff went out and made sure. So it's our job to make sure that they're meeting what has been approved. I didn't know that.
You have the opportunity to bring forth.
Not necessarily just somebody, another merchant or another community member
Yeah.
could
complain.
contact
Okay,
them
all
and
right.
say they don't.
But it's not like a,
But mostly it's the
Yeah.
commissioners, because we're the
Oh,
ones that
okay.
know the
Know
rules and
what we
regulations, and we're
approved,
looking
yeah.
at them all.
I thought it was like a building permit for electrical work. You do the work, somebody comes and makes sure that, okay, I didn't know. there was
So
someone
on that
dedicated to-
side, where someone has submitted a COA and a signed permit, it then does go to our building inspector, who
Okay,
does go
yeah.
out and inspect that
Okay,
it was installed correctly.
okay,
Um,
but
the-
not for signage and anything.
Yes, for signage
Oh,
too,
But
for
it's-
but it's after it's
Yeah.
been approved. So it's installed, the inspector goes out and makes sure that there's correct installation procedures that were followed, and that it's not going to fall. So he's looking at it from a safety standard.
Right,
You guys, the minor works, major works, are looking at it from that historic preservation side.
right,
That is not our building inspector's role.
okay. I was under the impression there was someone in the planning office who went out and made sure they did what we approved. Okay.
do they notify business owners that they've done that? Because I've never had them come inspect any of our signs after we put one up. Just,
I'm not sure of the practice prior to becoming the HRC liaison.
But even if the owner of the business as well, like the owner of the building.
Will you come to the microphone?
Sure.
And then just,
I will say, my GPS was wrong. It kept telling me the other side of the building. I apologize for the delay.
you're fine. We're going to come back
To you.
to your piece of the agenda.
Sure, I'm Chelsea Elliott on behalf of Jane Albright. Yes,
So what was your question that you were asking?
even if the owner of that building itself was approved, we still have to get it approved by you guys
Mhm.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Currently,
currently. Okay,
yes.
Okay.
Yep, and then we can't speak specifically about what was identified once Ms. Albright was submitting her COA, but once we have your hearing, I will explain more to the commission
okay,
because it's a quasi judicial hearing and everything is evidential. They can't have any conversations outside of the meeting.
okay.
Yep.
Even if we spoke specifically to you.
Yes, we can have conversations, but they can't have prior knowledge of what the COA application is about.
Okay,
So we're trying to clarify and streamline the process for the future.
okay,
And our apologies go out that you guys are the ones that got stuck or involved in
right.
sort of the lack of authority to move forward. Yeah. So they're just asking me questions to clarify because they will eventually make a motion that will say one way or the other, the authority will be granted or it will be tabled or it's denied.
Okay,
So just hang out for a few more minutes and then
Okay.
we'll wrap this up.
So basically, what I'm understanding, we give authority to the staff. They use the guidelines to decide whether the sign that was appropriate was brought in. If it's not appropriate, then they work with that person to make it appropriate.
And
Yeah.
then the applicant would always have the opportunity that says, can I take this before the
Right,
HRC?
Right, if they choose to continue with the design they want
Correct,
and it doesn't fit the guidelines, then it
Correct.
would come before us.
correct.
Okay, well, that's kind of what it was sort of had been in the before, that we just didn't have it written down.
It wasn't, yeah, there was no authoritative
Right.
language.
Right. exactly.
Identifying that.
So, do you all have any questions? Karen, do you have any?
No, I don't.
Hey, Jerome, do you have anything?
Did we resolve the issue of, or the question about lighting?
Oh, so that is within the guidelines now, and so it does say that, I might be saying it totally wrong, but you can't have lighting within in the sign itself. Now, there is some signs that have lighting,
Right.
but they're not encased. It has to be encased in the sign. So they're open and there's lighting behind it, but it's open, and that was approved.
If you'd like to, you can refer the commission to page 12 in your packet.
Okay,
And that is the language from the guidelines on the design standards and then bullet point 6 reads translucent plastic signs which
Right.
have lighting within the sign, internally illuminated signs are prohibited.
so, yeah, and then there's also, I think that somewhere it says fluorescent,
Neon tubing.
neon signs,
yeah.
tubing.
And neon tubing signs are prohibited.
So
And
those
fluorescent,
things are already within the guidelines. If somebody came, or if we want to change, like we might look at something and decide we want to change, then we can bring it up and vote on that and change whatever we want to and give it back to the staff if we do this where the staff are being the guide to the signage.
How would we word or it's for them to have to come back periodically check with us? How do we word a motion so that they have to come back to us periodically to check and make sure we're on the same page? Or
I mean, we
Have no
could
idea.
probably put in that once a year or something where they would give us a report on signage and what signage has been approved and what they're seeing, and then we can discuss that and look at the guidelines. Something like that work.
Does he mean like how many people or like how? I'm just trying to understand your question. How many people are asking for your approval?
No, I think what they were talking about is the designs, and as
Okay.
the designs change with new technology,
Okay.
how are we going to be guidance with the staff so we keep within
I-
our scope of what we want? Is that what you're asking?
I don't think if we put a timeline, like every 6 months or something, that might not be adequate. It might be better for the staff when they have that come up
When
to
it
just
presents
to
itself.
say, we need to talk about this because it could happen next month.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then, we don't want to hold a business up for 3 months while we wait to decide. So if Mary and her team see something that's new, that's like a 3D printed sign, then we can talk about it that next meeting to be
And I
expeditious.
think that's what I think that's what you would do, right? It would be the
It would-
COA, it would go directly to the COA.
Which would come to us.
which
Right.
would Come within that month.
So if you guys maybe just reference the agenda, that the way that we have it currently structured is new business and then updates. And so if it is the request of the commission to also include on the agenda underneath updates, any COA approvals,
By the
I-
staff.
I'm at your request, yeah,
Okay,
by the
great.
staff. So that way it is a rolling monthly standing practice to discuss
That's good.
what
Yeah.
minor COAs have been
And
approved.
we're updated on
Yep.
what's going on.
But if somebody comes wanting something really new and different and way out, let's say, you're not going to automatically approve it as a minor COA because
It's not. gonna
it's
fit
going to
all the-
have to, it's not going to fit in what's already here. So it has to come to us the next month as a COA anyway, right?
So what's in the language is wooden, let me get to my page. Signage made of painted or stained wood or other compatible painted or printed non-wood materials. That gives staff a lot of room. It's broad, and typically
Broad.
things are broad. And it's bridged to the projecting signs, the campus suite tenant or wayfinding signs, new wall signs, and freestanding signs. So you guys can always define the materials more specifically, because if you adopt this language, this is what I
What's
have the
gonna be,
authority
yeah.
to function under, in addition to the section 10.400 from the development ordinance. I think what I'm hearing is you guys have understanding and would advise that there's minor work approval process for staff. You're just working out what the definitive sort of line is to then come before you as a major.
I would feel most comfortable if we, on a periodic basis, did come back and check in and say, okay, this is a general sweep of what's happened over the last year, the general trend.
But
Does this feel comfortable? with the
if
board?
it's been approved and they've done it, and then it comes before us every 3 months, and we're like, wait just a minute, who's gonna go say, we don't like this sign?
Well,
We
you
didn't
can't.
approve this sign.
We
We don't
can't.
like this sign. We want it gone. We want something that's more in the current, in the,
In that case,
Well, I
we
think
would,
you,
in
right.
that case, we would
I
not
don't-
be able to retroactively change something, but we could say in the future, this is
future,
what,
right.
this is.
yeah, but in the meantime, we're stuck with that sign that doesn't go downtown as far as HRC is concerned, doesn't fit in with the historic nature of,
Well, so we have
That's-
these guidelines. So I guess what you would have to do, we would have to do if we want to give it to the staff is to figure out the wording that you want to say that allows them to stay within the guidelines that we've already have. I mean, we already look at these
Mhm.
and do these, and so that's what they're going to do.
I-
So,
I think they're gonna have to work within the perimeters of a determined and established guideline. Then from there, we're gonna relinquish it to them as opposed to us babysitting it or
right,
continuing to go over it. That's why we're relinquishing them to that. So everything doesn't have to come to us once we have established things that we're considering minor.
We've already got the materials in the guidelines. Wouldn't putting something about the technique or the design itself cover that? Like, just a few years ago, they started putting the I can't remember what it's called, but it's almost like they painted on the walls where they heat it up, and that, not a vinyl siding, but you know what I'm talking
Like a
about?
wrap.
A wrap. That was a new technology.
For
So if the
signage.
staff identified a new technology that's being presented, then that could automatically have to come to us to approve that type of technology. Then we wouldn't be relinquishing so much of the judgment to the staff, because they're already working within for years around the wood and the plastic and all that. But if they looked at, this is a new technology or new way of doing signs that we haven't done downtown before, we need to bring that to the commission. I think if the motion said that, that would cover pretty much everything that we're asking for. I don't know how to say that motion though.
Yeah.
I make a motion just to say all that.
I still want to have them come back to us on a like an annual basis to say, this is. the
well, that
general-
we can do like a monthly,
Mhm.
I mean, a brief, where the staff gives a brief, these are the signs that came before us this month, or there was no signs before us this month.
And maybe
Would you
the
wanna
only
do that?
signs that need to be brought to us are just the ones that's outside of the
Right,
established.
right, exactly.
So anything within that criteria,
Or
we don't need to,
somebody-
I wouldn't think I would need to see it. Then we're just double working. So if we just put that to minor, it's minor. The only time it may become a problem if something was to happen and the inspector comes back and says, well, I've inspected it and there's some safety issues. Then
But-
maybe it can come back to. us.
Well, by the time it gets to the inspector, again, he's not looking for historic preservation guidelines. He's looking at the
The
safety.
safety.
So he would just ask for the contractor or the vendor who installed the sign to, let's just say they use tacks and they were supposed to use concrete screws. He would say, you need to change this and give them like 30 days to come into compliance. So by that time, it doesn't come back to HRC. Where it would come to HRC is when I'm in receipt of the COA and they have their packet that has their materials. It has a picture of their existing building. It has a picture of their proposed signage, the size, the width, how much it comes off the building. If there's something that is a new technology for producing the sign, what I'm hearing is that it would be the desire of the commission to then say
Do it.
this is a
Yeah.
major COA
Yes.
moving
Correct.
forward. But
Yes.
it sounds like there's a consensus around saying wood, plastic, individual letters, that is covered in the guidelines. You feel comfortable with my understanding of the guidelines, interpretations with support of Justin. And so someone will make a motion so that can become a minor work.
So,
Yes. So the motion needs to include,
So say one more time how you explain the piece that we
Yeah, I
want.
like Commission Member Haley, where he states like new technology.
Yeah.
Where our planning director referenced painted or stained wood or other compatible painted or printed non-wood materials. Maybe you guys are stopping at the painted and stained wood where as technology enhances and it's a newly created and designed signage that then is brought as a major COA. As you're crafting it, Chairman Worthy,
I'm not really, I'm just writing down some things and hoping somebody else can
I
help
just
with.
want to remind you guys that you will be adopting what is referenced on page 10 and page 11, the Roman numerals 1, 2, 3, and 4. But whenever you make your motion, you can say as outlined
Roman
Ordinary
numerals.
ordinary maintenance and
Mhm.
repair.
in our commission packets, pages 10 and 11.
10 and 11.
Yeah. When I was reading that, there's a lot of repetition.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Would our motion be something like, we're given the authority of the staff, the city of Graham staff to authorizing the city of Graham to approve minor COAs based on page 10 and 11 of our commission packet with the caveat that we're there. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to get the line with the caveat that any new technology design techniques would be brought before the commission as a major COA. Is that what you're saying, Mary?
And Commission Member Chin may have this. The commission, I move to authorize the
Yeah, I
city
get-
staff.
No, I get that. I'm just
For
talking.
signage, you didn't have the word signage as a major work,
All right,
identifying, and then you can identify
okay.
Roman numerals 1 through 4 with. And then that's where you add at the end about the moving forward.
All right. New
Roman
text-
noodles, which
technology.
one's Roman noodles? What?
1 through 4.
1 through 4.
Do we need to include in there the periodic bringing it back to us?
Commission member or Chair Worthy, could you answer Jerome's question?
I guess we can have it, but we could just, we can ask in another time, right? I mean, does it have
So
to be in the?
when you grant authority or you identify what's a minor work and what's a major work, those guidelines
I-
are set,
I think that's two different things.
but I'm trying to answer Jerome's question
Mhm.
about coming back before the.
Yeah, I know,
commission.
but I was thinking that if we just
Mhm.
do the motion
got you.
to accept
Mhm.
you all doing this, then we could make another motion later for you
not-
to,
that
for
would
for
be-
you to, what we want
would
you
be
to
a-
bring
they would
back to
determine
us.
what the
I
major
don't know
COA.
that it should be in the same motion.
Yeah, I got you.
So talking
Because
about,
it's two different
talking
things.
about materials.
Right.
And getting specific in the motion.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
What I heard Jerome saying is if staff could come back at a determined time for review of that authority of a minor work.
Right, and so I was thinking that's two separate.
Well, and what I was saying is by you guys granting the authority of a minor work, that sets it in motion for that approval process.
Right,
Right.
With the anticipation that you're not coming back because you've shifted it.
Yeah.
Currently, it comes
no,
before you.
no,
no,
he's
no, no,
talking,
no,
he's
no.
talking about a report.
The report saying that you guys are going to come back and say, this is what we did. This is what we see out there.
And,
How does that feel? How does that?
and that's
sit with the
why I was
board?
saying, I think it's two separate things.
Yeah.
And that it needs to be a separate motion.
I
I just
agree.
wanted, I know we can do
We
it.
talked about that going on the agenda.
Yes.
Yes.
Are you referring to things that are minor or
No,
the minor updates that's being made you want brought back to us
No, no,
periodically?
just a report
Just
about
a
what.
report.
About the minor
Yeah,
that's already approved by the staff?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think that's a separate issue.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I would say yes.
Okay. Sorry, you all
All right.
have your motion.
Yeah, I think I'll try. So I, Matt Haley, will make a motion. We approve staff's request for new signage approval to be classified as minor work in accordance with provisions 1 through 4. New signage trends should additionally, new signage trends that should additionally be brought to the commission as major COAs on a monthly basis or by the next month,
By receipt.
by receipt. Okay.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second.
Second. All right, is there any other discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
1 no and 5 yeses. So the motion passes. And it was Jeanette Baudry that made the no. Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate it. Okay, so
How do you want to proceed with Jerome's question? Do you want to wait until?
let's just wait till the
Okay.
end because we have some other things to
Okay.
do. Is
Okay.
that all right?
Yes.
Just as long as we come back to it.
We will definitely come back to it because I have
Glad to
some
hear about
others
it.
that kind of fit into yours.
Does she need to be sworn in? Or-
Yes.
So I have to go back.
Page 3.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want me to go ahead and read that information again? Okay. We'll move into hearing any certificate of appropriateness applications. We will now begin the evidential hearing for the COA listed on the agenda. As a quasi judicial proceeding, the HRC is not setting policy, nor are we soliciting public opinion on the desirability of an application. The HRC hears and considers evidence presented and applies the standards set forth on the guidelines and standards of the specific historic district for that application. The HRC must make its decision upon competent material and substantial evidence to determine the facts of hearing. The HRC will use judgment and discretion to apply the standards contained in the relevant guidelines to the application. The commissioners in voting for an item shall not have a fixed opinion, not susceptible to change, have a conflict of interest, have engaged in ex parte communication regarding the application. This meeting is open to the public, but participation is limited to parties withstanding to participate who wish to provide comments, testimony regarding the proposal. If you will be speaking as a witness, please focus on the facts and how they relate to the relevant historic district standards and guidelines, not personal preference, hearsay, or opinion. At this time, anyone providing testimony for COA 2202, please come forward to be sworn in. Oh,
Okay.
So raise your hand. Swear testimony that you're about to give is truth and nothing.
Yes.
I now move to open the public hearing. May I have a second? Okay. I have a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. It passes. The commission is now in a public hearing for COA 2202, Mary, will you please present the staff report for COA 2202?
Tonight, the applicant is requesting to install a wall sign. The historic inventory information is as follows. The building has a establishment date of around 1916 and its classification is contributing. It is a two-story brick structure with decorative arches and patterned brickwork on the second story. The building has a number of uses in its history, including retail establishments and the mill. In 1923, its second floor was used as a courtroom during construction of the new courthouse. The building displays decorative stucco molding between the first and second stories and has a modern first-story storefronts. Pilasters ornate the corners and the spaces between each set of the three bays on the upper story. As you guys in our previous discussion heard me say that adding signage increases the store's visibility. Therefore, the applicant is requesting a wall sign to enhance their visibility. The business is Things Above. It is located at 15 Southeast Court Square. Are there any questions?
I do, the text of the sign is shown here in white, is that, and that's the color you're proposing to put up there?
Correct.
We're just asking the staff that at the moment. I'm sorry.
All
Do you
right.
have anything for the staff? Okay, sorry.
No.
Okay, so I need you to please state your name and address for the record.
The business address,
Well, your address or
my
you,
personal
Mhm,
address?
please.
Okay. My name is Chelsea Elliott. My address is 119 North Main Street, Graham, North Carolina. It is in the Graham Cinema, yes.
okay. Do you have any additional information that the staff reported? Do you have?
I know, I hear a lot of lights about major, and we do not have any, we do not want lights on our
Okay.
sign.
Sure. So, Karen, you had some questions?
Just in the text, I assume it's gonna, you want the sign to be white. It's not, it's not, what I'm seeing up here is not just the presentation. You don't have an intention to put those like dark blue, the things and the word things and above.
Just
You're
things
gonna leave
above,
it white?
that's it. And I did bring a example.
Oh, okay.
I did come prepared. It's aluminum in the back, and then it's HDU foam, but it's a replica of wood, kind of like
Density foam.
material. I have okay, it says the following. I also will state this is my first time, so I'm sorry if I'm like a little bit awkward. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Okay,
Is,
Jeanette.
go back to the, what was up there before, is this within the parameters of a sign? It looks awful big.
As far as the measurements?
Yes,
It is within the
Okay.
regulations.
all right.
Okay, so flip it back. Is it tan now or is it
It's blue.
blue?
Mhm.
Okay. So my thing is, which I understand because I keep looking at the building and there's no place but to put a sign but that is on a design of the building, and our requirements say that you can't cover up a design on a building. But
Architectural element.
yeah. And so that's the problem I'm having with the sign, that because it's over the design, the architectural design of the building.
So it's kind of like Edward Jones next door, but a bit bigger, what my owner wants. It is on a plaque of the.
So Edward Jones has one just like this. Interesting.
Can you go
Picture of
back,
Edward
can you
Jones.
go back into, I think, the other image?
So on mine, the Edwards Jones sign is not installed. This is the picture from our historic guidelines book. Mhm.
Did we approve the Edward Jones signs or did staff approve the Edward Jones?
It was not approved by the HRC.
I say, I don't remember.
If you were directing your question my way, Chairman Worthy,
Yes.
in discussion with the planning director, what he explained is where the tile work is where the architectural features are, and that otherwise,
So this is
the
not,
business owner doesn't have an opportunity to put a sign on the facade.
right.
He
Tile
did
work
not
is.
have any concerns with the lettering going where you see it displaced in this
Okay.
picture.
That's
Well, I'm
what I
glad you
thought,
brought
yeah.
that up because that was,
Those are individual
concern.
tiles. That would carry more importance than.
right.
I have the question for the applicant. To mount the letters, will you have to alter the building at all?
No,
It's on a separate wood
correct.
plaque, so you put your letters on and take the plaque. And
As far as I know,
Doesn't look
yes.
like that, no.
So
It
in-
doesn't
It's
come-
flush against it,
It doesn't come
not
across that way in the photo,
protruding,
but
there's no lights, correct.
yeah, you'd put your letters on a surface and take that entire surface and put it in that location.
no, I think they're
Not-
going to be,
they're gonna
in-
put the
they're
individual letters.
They are
directly.
individual. I'm sorry, yes, they're
Oh,
individual.
there will be individual letters on a
I
No,
think it's
no.
on the
right
blue,
directly on.
correct.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look blotchy. I think it looks seamless.
Okay, so I
Also,
do have-
it's in the corner, so when you go into the circle, there is a fence still there and also a tree, so you can't see our building. I have a lot of people that call and ask where we're at.
Where you
still.
at?
Yes, constantly. So I think the big thing is if we
More
have something kind of like
visibility.
Edward Jones, it would be really nice and
Okay, so-
helpful.
More
So the question I
visibility.
have,
Correct.
Dark over there.
well, so
Yes.
those are the exact size of, I mean, that's how those letters are going to look exactly. Or, because it seems like to me like above is bigger than things.
More like this, the picture.
It's exactly like the
Same.
picture. The T is a little splattered because it's supposed to look like a cross. But it's supposed to look
Yes,
think it's
very
a-
rugged
Oh,
on the
he-
T.
what he's
That's
saying, the
Teens is in
lettering.
Small caps and above is in large caps, I think. is-
Mm.
There were lowercase on the thing than uppercase.
I
on the
think
logo.
it.
That's
if-
just our logo. It is
Right.
lower, the T is
Mhm.
lower things and then above, because that's important. Yeah.
Evans.
Look on the window sign,
So
it's
will
the
the,
same, your
so
logo.
will
And we
the,
still get calls about the window, like, oh, we can't find you. And we did that first
think
and we
it's
still get
awful lot of
calls.
stuff.
So
That-
that's why we're going upon the
Yeah.
sign.
So, I mean, I mean, I don't have a problem with the design or anything like that but is there any other businesses downtown that have like characters in I mean, the V is more like a heart and is that consistent with the other stores and stuff downtown from looking at what we've got with consistency and everything?
So with consistency, the signage is in line with the store's branding. As Ms. Elliott was pointing out, that is their
Logo.
branding, logo, images. Little Brother comes to mind where they have an image where there's hops
That's right.
that are out of the head and then there's a silhouette
Okay.
that's also included.
I think for me, if the letters can be like the above, they seem to be, I mean, are they going to fit within the design of that building? Or are they going to be outside of it? Because I would rather they fit within.
Okay.
Do you
So
see
you
what I'm
want them in
saying?
like the circular in the
Yes.
blue? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
I don't, I think having them hang out over it a little bit
Okay,
looks messy.
that's your preference on that?
And I think if it were, if they were in,
Contained inside.
where that was the frame of it, then
Okay.
it wouldn't bother me so much. But it does bother me in that
Is the-
because you have a design on the building and you're trying to put letters over the design, it bothers me that
So the
they don't
G
fit.
and things and the T and,
Yeah, those
things,
I
those two
understand
are
they're
the
not
most
gonna be able to
major.
do it because you have that. But the above is what is more with the, those seem to be right over, they're hanging over the,
Each of the top and bottom of
Right.
the held down.
I see what you're
Of the
saying.
cutout.
like if they're
So if you want
within,
it just a little bit right
so that
above
they
it,
fit in,
like things,
yes.
just like things,
Yes.
and then you want it, okay.
I
Or
get,
they fit within that. And I understand the cross and the G
Okay.
is not gonna, that's not gonna work because of the design, but if they could fit within that
Then the cutout.
design,
Scale those, scale the
scale them
word
down
above
just a
down.
tiny
yeah.
bit.
I guess in some ways he's saying that you have architectural features of the building with the oval shape.
Right.
Can the letters respect that oval shape and respond to it a little bit more?
That, yeah, that's what I was saying. Because I agree that there's no place to put a sign.
That way we get a point of saying we're in an older building and we're going to celebrate that fact it's an older building.
I
but we also
see.
want to celebrate your sign.
Absolutely. Yes. Is it okay if the cross is the only one that's bigger than
Yeah.
the rest?
So we can't see the Edward Jones sign, but if the Edward Jones sign is overlapping all that, and then we make her squeeze it down,
Pull it up.
is it gonna look that much weird? Is that gonna look, I mean, like side by side, is it gonna,
Yeah, I don't know.
Then
because
stand out
I
even
can't think
worse.
in my mind what Edward Jones sign looks like, so I have no idea.
The current photo of that, Mary.
Pulling it
She's
up.
I will say Edward Stone is very seamless and very small, correct? But we are not a financial advisor. We are just a bookstore and coffee shop. But the cross is what really we are trying to portray.
no, that's not what I meant. I just was wondering if the Edwards Jones was outside of the oval stuff.
In my opinion, I don't think it is.
Don't think so.
I will say. I know it's probably not really great for me to say that, but I don't think it is.
They're swift.
But the cross is really what I really would like to be more
Right.
protruding.
And
Oh, yeah.
I get all that, so
Okay.
that, but the other side to me, I mean, if the
That I-
if the majority can fit
Within those two.
I respectfully agree. I see what you mean.
And because
Not on that
the
picture.
T on the cross is a
That's an
little bit
older
larger.
picture.
Right.
The heart could be, to balance that out, just a tiny bit larger.
There
but
we
then
go.
with
It
all
is.
the other
There it
script- If all the other script was within those two elliptical,
Then it could
the
go.
See,
routing,
Right.
theirs is pretty close to being within
Mm-hmm.
that.
That first, I mean.
They're responding
D's
to
and
their
the,
lowercase is all within and their uppercase is just a smidge out. I
Right.
would say if you followed that with the T.
The
and
T, the A, and the V is okay?
I would think if you let the T be a little bit larger and the heart be a little bit larger and put all the other ones
Okay.
within. You have no choice with the G, but probably to go a little below, but
And if you
Kind of
turn,
like that
if you
picture.
turn a little bit over towards the corner where we are, do you see how the tree is blocking us? And then as soon as you pull onto Main Street into the circle, there is another tree that blocks us as well. So that's why I think Jane really wanted us to have a bigger sign.
But anyway, do you see what I'm saying? Just-
I absolutely see what
the-
you're saying. I
the-
just hope you understand what I'm
No,
saying.
no,
Oh,
right. And
absolutely.
I
Okay.
have no
We-
problem with the
We
cross.
got it.
Okay,
Anything, the rest, just if you could keep it within that scope a little bit.
okay. We're just in a bit of a
Balance.
nook kind of
Yeah, the
area.
balance would be good if you had the T and the heart was as just maybe
Just the same size
less than the
as the
T,
T.
but a little bit, it could be a tiny bit bigger than the rest of the letters and above, and then the G underneath. So anything that comes. in-
Okay,
Anything that comes in threes is generally easier to see.
I
You
like
have a
it.
T, a top, bottom, and a top. And if you retain, and as Jerome said, respect those two architectural elements,
okay,
just as Jones did. In my view, it would be both artfully done and in keeping with your neighbor's signage.
What about the material versus what Edward Jones has used? Is it the same
It's
material?
similar. I mean, it looks
got it
very
right
much
there.
similar.
Is it, I know she has that, but is
Yeah.
it the same that's what's up
It
there
looks-
with
Looks
Edward
like
Jones?
it's the
Yeah.
same stuff. Because theirs are individual letters too. So, same stuff.
Yeah, when I first looked at the sign, Carrie, that was the only thing that bothered me. And I thought, well, we'll wait and find out, see what,
I see what you guys say. I
Yeah.
completely, I see,
see that,
mhm.
it can,
Hopefully, it's not that much, hopefully.
No, right.
But what you're
So
trying
the
to do.
T, the A, and the V, well, heart, would be the exact same size. The T maybe might go a little over. And the G, obviously.
and the heart could be,
So the T, A, and V, and it's a little bit of the G. Okay, and then everything else would be
Hmm.
inside the
and
oval.
you might want to take a look at the E and the J and Edward Jones to give you guidance as to how much those three items would.
Okay,
I don't
Um,
understand why you keep including the A.
so the A is a capital.
So you're gonna go back and write the B, the
Well, I
O,
just
and the
wanted it
E
to be
in
seamless,
little-
like the T, kind of. But you want me to skip the A and put it in with
Yeah, I would just keep the A, B,
O,
O, and
E?
E all the same size,
Just,
because that's what you have
yes,
in your,
Shrink it down
that's-
some.
that-
So the
it fits
T,
in
G, and
that
V.
oval.
yeah, what you have in your sign, that's what you have in your sign.
Don't
so.
make the A larger.
Just
It'll
the
read.
V, the heart.
The heart, the G, and the
T.
T.
Mhm.
Okay,
T, the G, and the heart.
And your eyes are gonna go straight to the heart when you come around that corner anyway.
okay,
Or the cross. the
Yeah,
cross
either
and
one of
the
both of them.
I wouldn't
heart.
worry about the A needing to be capitalized because the lowercase style on things and the style in the word above.
right. But that's our logo. I will say, I
know
will
that.
keep this
Yeah.
capital A,
Yeah.
obviously.
I would for the sign in this case.
Okay, so, okay,
Anyway,
It
shouldn't be
sounds
trying
like
to
the con-
design it, but I think for me, it's just
just the
bringing
seamless
it
with
down a little, just a tiny bit.
Okay,
According to the picture anyway, I don't know what it is.
okay,
I think by doing what we've discussed, it'll look more intentional other than, oh, well, we'll just put them up here. Oh, it's too big for this space, but oh, well.
okay.
Well, now it's not an oh, well, it's thought out.
I see what you mean.
What I'm hearing you
Okay.
guys recommend is for Ms. Elliott to go back to the sign company using that inset as the height maximum and minimum with the exception of the T and then the lower swirl
has
of
to
the
go under.
G, but that the G would reduce in the font size with the reduction of the rest of the word. It's just that that hook is going to drop below the inset.
Yep, yep.
And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Elliott, you may know this, I believe that AB Signs also created Edward Jones. Do you know that?
I do not.
Okay.
And Mary, if you look at the word Edward and the word Jones, they are not the same type.
And not, yeah,
Right.
that's what I.
It's two
So
different fonts.
your thing
Yeah.
and your above will be just fine because
Yeah.
those two, Edward is like Times New Roman and Jones is different.
Mhm.
So your things and above will read separate but together,
Correct.
like Edward and Jones does, even though.
Just
they're-
like Jones,
yeah.
yes. It'll be a little different,
Right.
But similar enough to. fit
similar
in
enough
with-
to look
Fit in with the signage, correct?
correct, yes.
So,
Yeah, that,
Do you guys
guys
want
have
to take a
anything?
look at the, what the item would feel like?
sure, let's.
yeah, bring it up,
bring
let's take a look at it. I'm sure it's highly weatherproof and.
It is, it's better.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and it's lightweight. It's lighter weight than I expected it.
We're a coffee shop and a bookstore. All of our coffee is from Fortuna in Greensboro.
So is there any other questions down on this side?
That's enough.
No, I've asked enough.
Okay, is there any questions on this side?
Nope.
that you haven't been asked.
None.
Okay, so, close the meeting. Okay, so, I'm going to close the, floor for public comment. Thank you. We appreciate it. I need a second to call for a vote.
I second the call that we
Okay,
close the floor.
thank you. There's a second. All in favor, yay?
Yay.
Yeah.
And all for, A, and
Aye,
all for
yeah.
nay?
Aye.
Okay. It's passed. We're closed. Is there having deliberations? Do y'all have any discussion about what we talked about? If not, we need a findings of fact. So can we have discussions of any finding of fact? Of fact. So if no discussion, may I have a motion stating the finding of fact?
And I neglected to share with the commission, but the finding of fact from our guidelines falls under the category of landscape features, referencing signs on CS-12.
Okay. So be reminded that the following finding of fact will include in your motion. Recall your list, adding any not included in the staff report. So do I have anyone make a motion for?
I
finding of
would
fact?
like to make a motion
Okay,
that, let's see if I can get this right, that the COA 2202 falls within the finding of facts for landscape features subcategory signs.
okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and seconded. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. We have one more motion to make. If I can find my pages are all out of order here.
Just pass it.
Oh, maybe I did do that. Or,
Don't see it.
This is 6.
okay, where?
have the-
So
Need
if
a-
you'll
I need
move
a
to
motion.
page 16.
Oh, 16. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, got lost.
Next, you would typically ask me for any staff updates, but you guys had a lingering motion that you wanted to return back to from Jerome.
Okay,
About the
Don't we
report.
have to approve the,
we have to make a motion.
We did a motion for finding of fact.
No, we
So
got-
I'm sorry.
Somehow we got in the.
Yeah, y'all went a little short on your
we got
motion there.
Somewhere we got in the pattern of doing a finding of facts. and
yeah, then the
applying-
motion.
then the
Now we
motion-
need to,
The motion up for the actual event.
yeah, we need a motion
To
or
approve,
to approve or not
The
approve.
COA.
the
we don't
COA.
see that in the packet.
But
No.
it's not in here, but, or I'm not seeing it.
So if you go back to page 5
Right, I did that.
and
I
then
got
make a
lost
motion
in
that
this.
COA 2202
22.
is consistent with a special character of the historic district, that you move to approve it as presented.
Okay, so, but we want to,
I move that the commission find a fact that is proposed project COA 2202 submitted by Chelsea Elliott for 15 Southeast Court Square, if constructed according to the plans reviewed at this meeting, is congruous with the special character of the historic district because COA 2202 is consistent with special character of the neighboring properties and the historic district as a whole, and is consistent with design standards for landscape features, signs, with the corrections of the sizing and centering of the letters within the perimeters of the woodwork.
right,
The inset.
Inset.
that, we have a motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
So that means I'm approved.
You're approved.
Okay. Do I have to go back and like ask you guys if that's okay or?
Depends on
can
how
I
good
just start
coffee
it?
is.
Okay, okay.
No, you're good. Just
That was a bit confusing, my
Yeah,
friend.
just
So I'll
keep-
just say that.
You
keep
did good.
in
Thank you.
line of what we were talking about.
Welcome to quasi legislative
Right.
judicial proceedings.
So I'll do exactly what you guys discussed earlier, correct?
Yes.
The
Thank
T and the V and a little bit of the G. And then everything else will be in the,
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Okay.
so much.
you're welcome.
Very
Thank
nice,
you,
very
guys.
nice.
If you have any questions, you can see Mary.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'll,
well.
I'll send Jane the email too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you,
You
Mary.
guys have a blessed day.
Bye.
Too. Now you can move to page 16. And it's just to ask me to do my staff report.
Okay. Mary, would you do your staff report?
Yes, let me get the presentation started back. Okay. So my update is that I received a minor works for a historic sign. However, it's deemed as a feature. And the feature is an ESO sign that will be installed at the corner of North Main Street and Hardin Street. That was under the guidance of the planning director. Because there is a historic picture where it was a functioning operating gas station and it
Right.
was an ESO sign. And so the property owners have located the sign, the ESO, and I apologize, I thought I had put that in the PowerPoint presentation. It's not blocking any DOT right away. It's on their private property, so they got all those checks boxes checked. It was deemed a minor because of the historic provenance that goes along with it. So I'm just updating you guys to let you know that that will be installed maybe within the next month. Also, the facade grants that were administered, they, in the application, the work is to be completed by May 1st. So I will be sending notifications to those who have not completed their projects that the deadline is approaching. They can ask for an extension of 30 days. And then if there's circumstances, as we have experienced with supply chain turnaround times, then they can ask proving that it's in the process underneath the approval of the finance director and then the manager, that it would go in the budget to carry over for next year. So that pertains to 3 of our applicants. Mr. McClure for his Main Street of removing the aluminum siding. Mr. Paul Kratz for the refurbishing, refreshing of his signage, and then the brick around it there on Court Square. And then Miracle Metals with their roll-up doors.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
Do y'all have any direction for me? We had some lengthy discussion about COAs.
Right.
And some past projects that may still be open.
Right, so I would like the staff, and I don't know if I have to make a motion, but to monthly, at the end of the report, in your staff report, to update us on which COAs are still out there and how much longer they have before they're no longer effective.
So that's just a direction. It's not anything that you're putting an approval on. So that'll just be put into practice moving
Okay.
forward, as long as
Yeah.
there's a consensus from the group. I don't think you
Right.
have to take that to a vote.
Yes,
And then Jerome, do you want to say the same thing?
I would like to have for a directive that the staff for signs come before us and tell us, enumerate or show us examples of the signs that have been approved, the minor COAs that are done for signs.
So an update on signage. Just keep us informed of what's going on in downtown.
Then,
So,
when do we do our grants for this year? Is it after the budget gives us the
August.
money in
August,
August?
on
Okay.
September.
But are we, when do we advertise? Because we're April, May, June. Okay.
Late July, August, and then I think you award it in September. If you guys would like for me to bring that timeline before you at the next meeting too, just for clarity, I
That'd
can
be
do
great.
that. Okay.
Just a guess, since you brought up the 2021 facade grants, how many are still not going to make the May 1st?
I don't know
Yes.
if they're not going to make the May 1st,
Yeah, I
but
know
there's
Miracle's not,
3.
and
The 3 that I mentioned
Okay.
are the ones that I have not received a request for reimbursement.
we know there's 3. Okay.
That is correct.
okay, so the other thing I would like to bring up, and we kind of discussed it a little bit in the earlier part of the meeting, is the whole regulating the things that are going on. I know that there's at least 3 things in downtown Graham that I have brought before the staff that are not in compliance. And it's been probably 4 months since I mentioned it to the staff and nothing has happened. So how do we, as a commission, figure out how to have some power, authority on what we do? Because if we don't have any power or authority, why are we here?
So for our discussion, will you bring to light those 3 items for the other commission members?
So the sign that is at, what's it called?
Wits.
Witt sign was placed on the staircase. It's not on the building, it's hooked to the staircase. They never came before us to ask if they could put that sign up. And I don't want it on the staircase because it's not a sign that should be on the staircase. And I've asked for it to be removed until they come before us and talk about it. Of course, now we don't have to because we just gave it to the staff. But before that, I'd asked 3 months ago for it to be removed and for them to do a COA to come before us. And they have been sent letters and they have been told that they are supposed to do it and it's still there. So every time I drive by, it makes me a little angry as the chairman of this commission that nothing has been done. Secondly, we have 2 sculptures in downtown Graham. I'm the director of the Arts Council, I know. I love public art, but both of those sculptures have not been come before us and been approved to be where they are. They were installed. We have one of the sculptures came before us. We did approve it as a temporary sculpture. It is now a permanent sculpture, and neither one of those have come before us and are in downtown Graham. And they have been sent letters and they have not responded or come before us for a COA. If we have no power, why are we here? The Graham sign and the new tower sign. They're both on the Witts property.
Love Graham.
The Love Graham sign was approved by this commission as a temporary sign for the Love Graham Festival. It was never approved to be a permanent sign. I'm not saying I'm against these signs or these pieces of work. What I am against is that they have been told that they are supposed to have a COA and they have not become before us for the COA.
Is there a penalty for?
There's no penalties, no nothing.
So for all the things we've been doing? Whether
This was the question
whether-
that I asked an hour ago.
That's right.
for the window, if someone puts in the wrong windows, someone paints their building fuchsia pink.
So we have the discussion of some windows, which I also complained about. The windows were never removed. They're still there. And the staff never did anything on the windows. Those windows were approved by this commission, but written in the way that the way they were installed is not what we approved.
I just want now,
Well, yeah.
anyway, what we just looked at, all of that lettering on the glass below the things above sign. I don't think that's in compliance. I think there's way too much writing on that window. Because I was just looking at this again in the manual. And it's easy, just keep putting letters up there. You know, you get carried away. But we do, and like I said, for those of you who have not been on this commission, signage, this has been going on for 20 years, signage. It had been an ongoing argument for 20 years, it seems, about our signage. And yet,
Well, we're just
no one
getting ready-
still pays attention to us and what we have written in this manual, and it seems to be one person.
Anyway,
know
so
we're being
I
filmed.
just want to know how or if there is any way for this commission to have some teeth
Right.
in what we do. Because it doesn't do any good if we say, you know, we don't want this, and then it goes ahead and happens in our downtown. Why do we have this commission?
So is there any,
So that's what I would like to know from the staff is how or what way are we going to be able to have some teeth?
So if the things above folks decided to put up a sign anyway, whatever they wanted, and it didn't fit any of our guidelines,
Mhm.
other than getting a nasty letter and going, mm-hmm,
Throw it in the trash.
Nothing.
is there any, is there any,
So there is
Bay.
code and there are fees that will ensue that follows the code enforcement process. So when there's a complaint, there is a code enforcement officer. The code enforcement officer sends a letter. There's a timeline for when the business owner is to come into compliance. If after that compliance state, there's non-compliant still, there's fees that can be assessed.
So fees, so for the 3 items that our chair has brought forward, fees, when would fees start applying to that? those
Fees could
situations?
have already been assessed. I have updated the chair along the way with the process of my communication with the business owners and have asked that it be given an opportunity for it to be resolved. And what the chairman is voicing is there has not been a resolution. And so we find ourselves here this evening. As directed by you guys, I will follow up on the items that you request me to follow up on. Other items that are identified are submitted through the code enforcement office as a complaint, anonymous or identified.
My concern is that other folks can come along and do things. Things above can put up a floral sign that's 6 feet tall. And we've now said that we currently have the precedent that no fees will be charged. There's no penalties would be enforced except to get a nasty letter. So as by these other 3 items, so, and if we did come by and penalize them of some sort with fees, they can come back with a lawsuit saying, well, you guys didn't charge anyone else.
So part of it is understanding, awareness, and education. So part of that education and awareness is, as a downtown development coordinator, I send a weekly update to the downtown business owners. It's only as good as the email contacts that I have. So I have presented in that email that COAs is a first start for any external changes to the building. Because as you guys are discussing, a lot of business owners are not aware that that's the first step in the process. Nor are they necessarily aware that there's a sign permit that they have to follow. Where they know from the get-go that there's a process with connecting with the city is for the water to be turned on. You can't magically make water get turned on in your building. So we have a new business checklist. It starts with me, it connects with the planning department, it connects with the water department, and then it's the final with the inspections and with our fire inspector. And then from there, oftentimes we do not hear from the business owner until it changes hands. You guys have an unwritten charge to look and observe and bring forth questions.
Sounds like we've done that and carried out our charge of saying there's issues here. And the question is, so when do we start charging fees?
So for the 2 that Carrie has brought forth, there's a side of being a good neighbor and having good customer service, good efficiency and effectiveness. It's what staff delivers, right? Being a steward to the community. Reaching out to the business owner of Wits, there were some family situations that came up, and I was told that he was working on the placement of the sign. It has been some time since I last talked with him, and the sign is still on the stairs.
How long is some time? 3 months.
Probably more than 4.
I don't know how long it's been, but as soon as it was put up, I asked that if it was approved by the staff, which it was not.
So they had gone through the process of a sign permit, of getting the 2 approvals for the sign. At that time, the new building was not constructed. So when the new building was constructed, the place where the sign had previously been on the building, it just came forward. And so it came forward and it was, the stairs were there. So from the business owner's perspective, there's visibility of the placement of the sign. The business owner isn't bringing into guidelines about a historic district. So I had that discussion with the business owner.
4 months ago.
The business owner feels like the visibility that you guys heard with the trees are obscuring the front signage. And they feel very compelled that the side wall sign is highly visible.
Can I ask, I mean, are we getting into an issue right now of talking about this? If they brought it to us, that we've already discussed the sign.
So it doesn't need to have a COA. They have already been approved. The new building came. It's just the placement.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, we're talking about the placement right here. Are we violating what we're,
It's in line with the code.
okay, all right.
Because there was a complaint, the complaint was registered. It is on the business owners to adhere to coming into compliance. So it's to Jerome's point about the teeth of the fees being assessed.
Gotcha. Is that something that we can have access to, like the fees and stuff being sent out to business owners as a commission? Is part of our packet? I mean, is that, or is that something that's too private?
Say that again.
Like, we're talking about non-compliance of signs or other issues. And is it a purview of this commission to have access to when letters or fees have been sent out?
I'll find out if that's a public record. I would think so.
Okay.
But I will follow up and check on that.
But who gets those? The business owner or the building?
The
owner?
business owner.
Okay.
So what's the next step that can be done?
If you guys are open to, since you're just learning of it, Carrie and I have been working on it for several months. Direct me to reach back out to the business owner, let them know that it was brought up at the commission meeting and that the request of the commission is that it be removed from the stairs and placed on the building.
My concern is that given the little response they've given us, given back to the previous complaints and comments, that they're basically going to thumb their nose at that and go on about their business. And which would give other situations that where people would ignoring COAs, they will have carte blanche to do it too, and legal justification to continue to do it because you're setting the precedent that you can ignore COAs.
What about if we give the opportunity for me to follow up with them and then I obviously report out to you guys at our May meeting? And then in the meantime, I can find out from code enforcement what fees are assessed and when I can email you guys that information. so
Could
that
you-
can have that.
Could you include, when you contact them, could you let them also be made aware of what the consequences are? Can it be noted in that letter?
Would the fees be retroactive?
And then that way they would know that they
I-
are out of compliance and they have X amount of days before the fee is assessed, or
Right.
giving them heads up that, you know, this is coming.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, but I
Good.
can find out.
Could staff look at maybe a couple other commissions and see if there's any any ways that they reinforce what they're voting on.
Okay.
And instead of each individual having a copy of the letter sent, maybe a directory or a binder could be present at these meetings, and we could independently look through it, so we don't have all these copies of letters. Could be present with us during the meeting time, and if you have a question or whatever happened to this, that, and
I'll find
as
out
they're
what,
being filed, maybe do they get a file number, or
yes, I do
maybe
believe
under
they are
that file
assigned.
number, we could have that letter, the name of the business and the building,
Okay,
what's been done.
okay.
I am bothered by this, just in general, that I'm not sure of any other major, when you're in a code violation for the city, where you're giving such leeway.
There are some other violations
for
where we
4
are working
months.
with the property owner. The,
This is very generous. It's almost to the point of negating our commission. Make me ask, why are we here?
I'd just like to say that, like, I know as working with the city and as a business owner in town, that, you know, we have to have a good back and forth with them, and they're in a tough situation with whether it's enforcing this or working with, they're not just working with one business owner, they're working with hundreds and sometimes thousands of business owners. So I think we need to give a little grace, right, with this and find solutions. Our goal is not to penalize these businesses, but to get them to follow the guidelines that we have. So I don't know if like, I mean, you send me a threatening letter, it's not gonna make me want to comply any more than you working with me. That's just my
Right.
perspective as
But,
someone
okay,
that,
the letter wasn't to be
I sort of
threatening.
agree with that. I just, it's hard if we, we do all the work that we do here to try to see that our, our historic district is kept the way it's. supposed to
Exactly.
be.
I'm not
So-
suggesting a threatening letter. What I'm suggesting is that once the letter goes out, that it's clear what the consequences are. So to make the owner aware, they may say, oh, God, you know what? I overlooked it. I really didn't mean to. We're pressing time now. We could be penalized and have to pay a penalty. Just so they can have something to look at and say, okay, yeah, we need to get this done. They said they contacted us 4 months ago. And with sometimes as a business owner and a property owner, things can just slip through the cracks. So with that being said, we don't want to threatening anything going from the commission, but we do want a letter of receipt, something, indicating that I have been made aware. That way we can be consistent and we can show consistency, and it's not like we're picking on any person. We're just trying to stay within the guidelines of the HRC. You have a complaint, if it comes before us, we have to execute it. Yeah, regardless of.
But
I understand the
Okay.
desire to be flexible for our citizens of our town and for our businesses. But if we let a situation run to the point where there is no consequences not being responded to, then there's no reason for us to be here.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying I think this has been going on for a long time because we don't even know what the consequences or how it's being delivered. And I think Chairman Worthy made a valid point that we need to find out from other commissions how they proceed. Because if we just send out something and then we don't have any way to back it up,
Right.
we're gonna lose even more credibility if we send out and say that you've accumulated this fees, but then we get to this point and then, well, we didn't do anything or we don't have a plan. So I think that's really important that we have some kind of next step that we can't, I mean, from the staff for us to actually enforce it. Because if it's not enforceable, then what are we doing here every Tuesday, first Tuesday of the month?
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. You put it in
But,
better words than me.
Can I ask you as a business owner? How do, as a business owner, and you know other business owners, how do you feel, how do you as a group feel about us? I mean, do automatically, it's like, we don't have to do what they're telling us to do? Or, I mean,
No, to be honest, a lot of it's not awareness. Like when you get the packet and stuff and it's gotten better over the years. When you first, when we first opened, and we're on the borderline of being in the historic district because part of the building is and part of the building's not. Which is kind of, we talked about this a few months ago, but like the staff is only so many and then they're navigating. I mean, a lot of us that are business owners, we have full-time jobs and we're trying to navigate supporting and building Graham. I mean, I don't know, some of you have been here a long time and seen the growth of Graham, and it's not a bunch, it's not all people that have just quit their job and just started a business. Most people that have businesses downtown work, 40, 50 hours, other jobs, and are trying to make it. So I would say the majority of us, or people, including my wife, are, they don't want to mess up. They want to stay within the rules, but sometimes we don't know. So I would say the willful neglect is minimal. I mean, most of the ones I talked to, like, weren't aware of the facade grants, and we talking about it in some of the establishments downtown, got a few of them to apply, and they look great. So some of it's just us being more aware of it. So there's some that's obviously just not doing it. But the majority want to be in compliance. They don't want to get a letter that says you're not following the rules because they want to contribute to downtown Graham. That's what makes this place special.
Have we sent letters to the folks who did the temporary sign that is now permanent?
Yes.
They knew that when they applied, they were applying for a temporary COA, right? In short, they knew what they were doing. when
Yeah,
signed
they knew
it.
what they were doing.
I wasn't in that conversation.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
based on what you said earlier, they came before us for a temporary, right?
I'm not sure that the Love Graham received the letter, the 9/11 public art piece.
Can we make sure letters go out for all of them?
In your handbook on page 4, it says a penalty of $100.
Page 4 on your handbook.
So I would just say to the commission, we are, I guess, the regulators of the district. So, you just need to watch, and especially when we pass something, try to watch when they're doing it and try to make sure that it complies to what we have said that it was supposed to. Or if you see things that seem to pop up that haven't come before us, you might ask the staff. I've asked the staff a lot about things, so to update me on what's going on in downtown Graham. I think that's part of our duties, I guess, as a commission. And just be aware and ask questions. You definitely have to ask questions.
Just a clarification, if we see something that's out of compliance, what's the process for doing that? Is that contacting you, Mary, or is there a form?
So you can contact me. That's the way that Chairman Worthy did.
Okay.
And then I spoke to code enforcement. You can speak to code enforcement without,
Gotcha.
notifying me. So I will send you guys the steps. I believe I started in the email of explaining code enforcement. This is a discussion that has come up before.
That would be good. If we could have that, that would be great.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the discussion.
Mhm.
And as we go forward, it would be good for us to have more of a organized design organized way of what we're doing and knowing what that system is.
So just for clarity's sake, will it be coming back to us a list of items or situations that are out of compliance? That was brought up, but I'm not sure where we get clarity on that.
Well, mine was more of what the process was. I wasn't going to mention the things, but Mary asked me, and so I decided to mention them, but it was more the process and how can we have a process that allows us to deal with any things that are not in compliance. So if you'll send us what the system is that you see, and then if you'll look up some others and kind of see some guidelines, and then we can look at it and discuss it and
Sounds good.
maybe see if there's a direction that we can go.
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Is there any other commissioners have anything to bring up? I kind of took over that meeting. I apologize. If there's no other, and I guess we don't have
Well,
Commissioner Parsons is our new,
yeah, I did not hear from him. I wasn't aware that he wasn't going to be here this evening, but on behalf of council, with Mrs. Whitaker getting promoted
Right.
to council, you have a seat on the commission. So the way that that is being put forth procedurally is that all of the vacancies will start to be posted probably as early as next week. In your water bill, you'll read a notation that says, if you want to be involved, that you can apply for any of the vacancies. And then those will be voted on at the June city council meeting. So we will carry the vacancy through this end of the fiscal year, and then it'll be filled. Their first meeting will be in July.
I would encourage any of you, if you have somebody you think would be a good commissioner, if you, ask them to, whether they would do it and to apply.
Mhm.
It's not, we don't have any say in it, but at least if you have
Right.
somebody, at least put them in and
Is this an ETJ? It's not, okay.
all right, if there's nothing else, I ask for a motion to adjourn
I make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.